Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My pleasure to welcome you now to the session on the European Hydrogen Bank. My name is Daniel FRAILE. I'm Chief Policy and Market Officer at Hydrogen Europe. It's really a great pleasure to see many of you coming to this session, but having seen you already yesterday, and I think as Jorgo put it this morning, a very good vibe, very good conversation, very good quality of conversation, so I appreciate all of you coming as well to Brussels to join us for these important conversations. So before I start with the panel, because we have a great panel of very knowledgeable experts, I would like to give you a little bit of the scene setting when it comes to the instrument, the European Hydrogen Bank. Yeah? I just wanted to bring some facts on the room so that we all have the common knowledge of what has happened until now. There's been a lot of things happening in the meantime since Ursula von der Leyen 3 years ago in our large event also announced the launching of the European Hydrogen Bank with 3 billion euros. So let's look first at the first auction that took place 2 years ago. We had at the time 7 winner projects. One of those did not sign the grant agreement, so there were 6 projects going forward. And one has recently actually also dropped out. That's the Catalina project in Spain, one of the 2 large 500 megawatt projects. So now we have 5 projects still ongoing from the first auction. We remember that the first auction led us with very low, let's say, premiums. And these projects are at different stages of development, some of which are more advanced. We have the one in Norway, Skiwa, which is more advanced. We have also 2 other projects in Spain and Finland, which are also planning to reach an FID by the end of 2025. So that's the information that we have. So one will say, has the first auction of the Hydrogen Bank delivered? I think it's a little bit early to say. Has it been successful? I think the projects are still ongoing, and they are saying that they have the fundamentals to move forward. But it's true that also their expected FID timeline has been delayed for 2 years. So it's clearly things are not working very well. And it's not just about the auction design, but it's also about the market conditions, of course. We know that things are coming a bit later than we were expecting them. Still, the Renewables Directive is being implemented at national level. Countries are late on transposing the legislation. We're hoping that by the end of this year, we will have more frameworks established, like in Germany, in Spain, in France, in the Netherlands, and so on. But this is becoming late, so it's basically pushing back the process into taking a final decision. Now, if we look at the second auction of the hydrogen bank, before that, also we look at how much, because when this auction was announced, the results, it was announced as a very successful auction, 130 projects bidding. This will produce many million tons of hydrogen and so on. In reality, these projects, if they will all come to realization, we're talking about around 150,000 tons of hydrogen per year. This is approximately around 10% of what we will be needing to produce in 2030. Yeah, so it's a significant amount, and if each of the rounds, each of the years will give us another 5–10% of hydrogen, the Hydrogen Bank will be contributing significantly to the European regulatory target. So it's an important instrument, can be very important in mobilizing the financial means that we need for the market. Now, if we look at the second auction, this is a bit more recent. There are many more things still moving on. We had 12 projects which were granted in the general basket, and then some projects for maritime application. These projects were invited to sign the grant agreement. Most of them actually have not signed the grant agreement. They have dropped out. That's why there was so many news during the summer. The good news is that this money is not being lost. So this money is now being, or let's say the European Commission, and they will explain us in a minute, they're inviting projects which were in the reserve list to also come in and participate. And so this is what has happened. 7 projects are going out. They are leaving 750 million euros budget gap, but the Commission is able to now mobilize 900 million euros and to invite 10 new projects. And of course, these new projects come from the reserve list, so they come with more or with a higher premium. So this is also more interesting. But let's look at where are these projects coming from. So here you can see basically from the first round, all those which are in orange are the ones which dropped out. And here you have, when we saw the news, when we saw the very positive news of the winner, we said, oh, this is great. We now have large projects in the Netherlands and in Germany, close to the industrial clusters, also being able to compete with the Spanish or the Nordic countries. But almost all of them have dropped, only a few remain. And now the new ones coming in on the light green, you can see that these projects are mostly from Iberia, but we also have one in Germany and one in Portugal, so one in Germany. These projects are much smaller, and they're asking for more money. So this also gives maybe a different perception. Will these projects be able to go forward, sign the agreement, and take the risk necessary to move forward? I think one thing is clear, that the bond completion that the project developers have to put when bidding into the bank is actually working, because that will push them to actually make the commitment to put the money or actually drop. And if they drop, we still can rely on the projects. So I think, in a sense, from that perspective, the hydrogen bank is working. But of course, the premiums are very low. We're still talking between €0.5, €1, and we all know that this is not enough to cover the cost gap. So we get these questions every day. Is the hydrogen bank, why is the hydrogen bank not delivering? What are the things that need to be changed? We get this from journalists every day, and I think it's a great pleasure to have a number of experts to come to the panel and help me answer that question. What is clear is that we still have another round to come, the third round of the hydrogen bank, which has been under consultation, and the Commission is now taking some measures to improve the requirements so that we will be more successful, or at least the money will be allocated to projects which are more likely to move forward. And I think which is very important is that we don't lose too much time, because we will perfection this tool, but if we take too much time until the money is finally distributed to the project developers, then we are losing. We are losing, and we know that many developers and many technology providers cannot continue burning cash and developing this project. We need to start building. Yeah? So I think it's important that the tool becomes more effective on itself. And I think it's very important that we also have a successful hydrogen bank, because we want this to continue. I mean, it was announced 3 billion, and now we have had 3 rounds with 3 billion. That does not prevent the European Commission to continue investing on this mechanism. I think it's super important that we see that long-term stability of the framework. It will improve. It has been a pioneer tool. The hydrogen bank was the first time that the Commission engaged in an EU-wide auctioning mechanism, and they have tried with hydrogen. I think now we need to continue that. Even if we now move to other type of support for off-takers, which is also very needed, this needs to remain an important pillar of the hydrogen strategy. So I do hope that this session and these discussions during this week help the Commission to get that reaffirmation that the mechanism needs to continue. Very good. So I have talked enough now, and I would like now to invite all the panelists to join me on the stage, please. So please help me with a big applause to all our panelists. I will sit here, and then you can to the next one. Alexandre, PAQUOT, I'm going to start with you. You come from DG CLIMA. You're a director of innovation for clean growth and low carbon economy. You are basically managing the directorate which takes care of the innovation fund, and which takes also care of the hydrogen bank. So you are a very important person on the design of this mechanism.
No pressure, please.
No pressure. You've been also a big supporter. You have been many, many years working in the Commission, DG Environment as well, also been leading the unit on road transport, so you have a lot of experience also from the institution. We would like to hear from you, what are your learnings? What do you take from what we have seen so far from the hydrogen bank? How do you interpret also the result that we have been seeing, and how do you take that forward? Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Daniel, and thank you for inviting me, and really happy to be with you all. Let me first give you one of the messages that I have really deep in me, is that we believe in hydrogen. We think hydrogen is one of the key technologies that we need for Europe to decarbonize in the hard-to-abate sectors in particular. So this is why we, as the Commission, a couple of years ago announced this hydrogen bank, 3 billion euros, that we are now rolling out through the different rounds of auctions. I want to say that the Innovation Fund is not only about the hydrogen bank. I was looking at the numbers just before coming, and I found that we are actually supporting 49 projects along the value chain for hydrogen. So it is also about producing hydrogen, but also producing the equipment, so the electrolyzers, and also supporting the off-takers. And it's about 3.85 billion euros. So it is not only the hydrogen bank. So whether we're happy about the hydrogen bank, I think yes. And thank you for the presentation, Daniel. It's a very fair and good presentation. We started with a pilot, and it was the first time ever we were doing this type of auction. And we are learning by doing, and we are learning with you, with the industry, on how to make this auction work as best as possible. We see a strong demand, so the sector is dynamic. The number of projects that are coming in the pipeline is high, so that's a good sign. We have the auction as a service, so member states can pool some extra money, and our friends from Spain have contributed for 400 million euros on top of the 3 billion that we have available. You mentioned the project withdrawal. For us, it's a good sign. It's a sign that the design of the auction works, because we have at the core of this auction completion guarantee of 8%, so meaning that if a project does not deliver, they have to pay 8% of the grant. And that's a deterrent. And this is why these companies, because of changes, uncertainties, decided, okay, I don't go into it, and I leave the space for others. And the money is not lost, as you said. There are enough very good projects in the pipeline, in the reserve list, so there will be other projects being supported. But we are learning also from that, so we will be adding stricter requirements in the next round. And yeah, I think we will hear during this panel that the hydrogen bank is, of course, not the golden solution for everything. This is much more complex if we want this project to get realized.
Okay, thanks. We'll get back to some of those learnings later. Arturo, so first of all, Arturo, you are the CEO of Enagas since 2022. You've been leading the transition of the company. I will say you have a very important role to play on the hydrogen transition, building infrastructure, and you have a long experience also in the energy sector, working in the industry in Repsol, but also in the government, in the environmental ministry, as Director General for Environmental Policy. So you have a huge experience, and now you're leading the company, you're building the infrastructure. You are not directly playing into the auction, but you will enable the projects to actually bring the hydrogen from where it's produced to where it's needed. So could you explain us a bit more what you are doing on that development of the grid in Spain, and how do you also link it to the hydrogen bank development?
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Hydrogen Europe, for the invitation. As you said, we are not participating directly in the auctions, but first of all, we are extracting very valuable information from the auctions. And one relevant figure is that 64% of the projects submitted in this second auction require a pipeline to connect supply and offtake. 64%, with an average of 384 kilometers of pipeline. So really, pipelines are a necessary piece of the hydrogen economy in Europe, and we have to be seen as enablers of this market. So we are constantly capturing all the relevant information from the market, which are the infrastructure needs, the capacity needs. In that sense, we launched in 4th Q 2023 a call for interest for the Spanish backbone. It had a very resounding success, with more than 600 projects being registered. And we used that information for the preliminary planning of the Spanish network. And with our colleagues of H2Med, with Ren, Terega, Natron, and Auger, we launched 1 year ago a call for interest for the H2Med corridor for member states affected. So we are capturing information from the market. And continuously, we are trying to improve that interaction. For instance, last week, we launched in Berlin the H2Med Southwestern Corridor Alliance with the 4 governments, the 5 TSOs, and 49 companies across the value chain, producers, consumers in the 4 countries. With that, we are moving forward. I think we are making a huge progress. With the Spanish backbone, we've already done the basic engineering of the network. We are doing 2,600 kilometers network. We are doing the basic engineering of the 3 compression stations. And as of today, we are carrying out the public consultation process, more than 500 municipalities involved, and I would say with a very good appetite for hydrogen as a kind of reactivate also local economies. So I think this is going very well. And regarding H2Med, we've already done the geophysics survey for the Barmar pipeline. We've launched the pre-FEED engineering, the so-called meteo studies for oceanic behavior. So we are really moving forward. We have a very substantial support from the European Commission, from the CEF. Yep. You know, we've received the whole corridor, 97 million euros for studies and engineering. So this is really something very important. And if I can leave a message for the conversation, is that I think that the European Hydrogen Bank could have a better coordination with member states, but also with infrastructure promoters such as TSOs, because it's clear that the Hydrogen Bank funding, as well as other national programs funding, have to be very well aligned with the availability of a robust and responsive to the market needs infrastructure. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Arturo. Maybe a very quick follow-up question. I mean, you have announced that probably you will take FID on some parts of the pipeline by 2027. Some of the winners of the first auction will need to take an FID before, and they depend in some cases from your infrastructure. How do you reconcile this situation in which promoters might have to take an FID based on a business plan which is based on your infrastructure while you have not yet taken the FID? Do you see any solutions or try to ease that situation?
Thank you. Well, first, we are complying with all the milestones we announced 3 years ago, so we are moving as planned. And indeed, as you said, Daniel, we expect to take initial FIDs for the Spanish backbone in 4th Q 2027. But we could do more if we have working with the member states, with the public authorities, if we could have more visibility on the remuneration schemes, on the basic access rules, on the risking mechanisms, which is something absolutely key. Also, we have to enhance this coordination with the Hydrogen Bank and with the member states. I think this is crucial. But with these elements being achieved, I think we could adjust better to the needs of the promoters. Also, I think, talking about the Hydrogen Bank, and I finish with this, that probably more flexibility would be needed because we think it's a little bit too extreme that if you don't comply exactly with the COD, you lose all support. I think there should be some flexibility to adjust better the projects to, for instance, the permitting processes or bottlenecks and the availability of the infrastructures.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. I think the flexibility element is an important one. Dimitrios, so Dimitrios Triantafylopoulos, I hope I pronounced it correctly. You are the CEO of Hellenic Hydrogen since 2023 and have more than 20 years of experience in the energy market. You are doing a lot of work in Greece. I have shown the flags of all the projects. That was mostly Iberia, some Central European projects, but no Greek project. Why is that? Why there is such a strong geographical imbalance on the participation at the moment?
Okay, thank you very much, Daniel. Thanks to Hydrogen Europe. I think it's been a great event, and the way it's been done this year, I think it's a little bit more efficient than other years because the conference only really touches on very important issues. As a disclaimer, I think I want to say I'm envious of Spain, because it is a country that is really leading the hydrogen economy in Europe. So whatever I say next is not out of bad reaction. But you saw the table. It is only Iberia and some other countries. And we were expecting that because if you look at why someone would bid low in an auction, it's because they have access to abundant and cheap green electricity, because they have access to demand centers that do not require long pipelines and other infrastructure, and because they belong to a country that has the political will to assist. So that's why Spain is leading. But what about the rest of the European Union? Because this is a European Union tool, and it's an assisting tool. It has to assist other member states to develop hydrogen. And for example, Italy or Greece, which have the same wind and solar potential, they cannot bid as low as that because they don't have access to the demand centers. Italy maybe, but we have very, very large electricity prices. We don't have cheap green electricity in the south, which sounds peculiar, but this is the case. So what I'm saying is that the hydrogen bank was a great tool. We knew that it would have a geographical imbalance, but I would like to see in the next rounds ways to somehow make this imbalance go away. We have talked a lot about geographical criteria, and I remember you told me once that the European Commission said, yes, but we have auction as a service. Okay, let's see the auction as a service tool. Who has benefited more from the auction as a service tool? Spain, Germany, and the Netherlands, and Austria, sorry. Austria. So again, the same countries that have benefited from the hydrogen bank for the right reasons have also assistance from the auction as a service tool. So, the auction as a service is not working as supplementary help to other member states. So we have to find a way to make other member states come into the game because there are a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons I have to think, and it was said very well yesterday by the representative of Rheinmetall, is the resilience. And it was put very, very well. If you see the map of Europe, where do we foresee that we would need resilience on the fuel supply? It's on the eastern borders of the European Union, as it stands now. If you see the map of the hydrogen bank auction, where is the place where we have no hydrogen projects? The eastern and southeastern part of Europe. So these kind of things, we have to take them back as lessons learned and see how we make this tool more available to other member states as well. It's going great for some member states. Again, it's been for us a good path, but we cannot compete in an auction-based process with Spain or Germany. This is the case.
I know, and I feel too that you don't get sufficient government support from the Greek government, and I think Yorgo will agree with me that he has been trying very hard to get the Greek government to be more supportive. But nonetheless, you're still building a project there. You have 100 megawatt projects in the north of Greece. You say electricity is expensive, but you're still moving forward. So what are the favorable conditions you see? There is the value of resilience. How you get the support, the financing, and the business case to build those projects also in that region?
The business case is based on a very big assumption that we are creating the demand. So we said, okay, there is no demand center where we're going to build this. Let's build the project and create the demand for future customers. In the process, we found an anchor customer. So we have an anchor customer for our project, but we need more customers. But this is a process that we had to do because in countries like Greece, it's not easy to have an off-taker where you don't have hard-to-abate sectors, you don't have fertilizers, you don't have steel industries. Mm-hmm. So we have a shipping industry, which is very keen to work on the e-fuels projects. And what we are doing now is we're adding demand by bringing these customers into the table. So we said, we have our project ready, permitting is ready, the land is ready, grid connection is ready, everything is ready. We are looking for European and Greek money to support the financing of the project, but these companies see that we have a real project because, you know, outside the bubble of our business, people tend to say that, you know, where are the real projects? You know, we have to show real projects to our customers. A lot of their argument, especially in the shipping sector, is that, okay, I will move forward, but where is the production? So the usual chicken and egg problem. So we took the approach based on, you know, the decision of our two shareholders that we're going to progress, and now we are at the final stages of taking the FID, and hopefully by the end of the year we will have an FID. Hopefully. And looking forward to have the first project in the southeastern Europe.
We definitely need good news also from that region. But I think you mentioned something just very quickly. Yeah, we need to also support the offtake, and I think this is also a message for you, Alexandre, for the Innovation Fund team. We've been doing the Hydrogen Bank, it's about support for producer. This is great because it's simple, but it's not sufficient. And we need to find a way on how we bring the future off-taker support in combination with the Hydrogen Bank. It cannot be always a one or the other. It needs to be combined. We need to find, I know that there is a lot of rules against accumulation and all that. We need to find the formula that we enable support for the off-taker and at the same time support for these projects which are more advanced and which are bringing the most value to the market. So we need to find that solution for the upcoming auction or for the future auctions. Now I'm going to move to Philip Offenberg, who you are the head of Government and Executive Affairs Office in Brussels of Siemens Energy. You joined recently before summer. You've been also in Breakthrough Energy as director for a few years in Brussels, also working on the hydrogen space. So you know the topic very well. Now with representing an electrolyzer company, building large-scale projects, the second auction brought new requirement, which was this resilience requirement, which is you cannot do your stack and different, let's say, main production parts in China anymore. Now the third auction is changing a bit those rules, introducing new criteria, a bit more complicated, but in that same spirit. How is your company dealing with this new, can you fulfill those requirements? How do you see that resilience features?
Thank you, Daniel, and thank you, Hydrogen Europe, for the invitation. And indeed, great to have the conference downtown this year, and I think it's a great setup. On the Hydrogen Bank, I think, first of all, we can say it's a very good instrument. Of course, it's not a perfect instrument, but it is a good instrument. And looking at all the other public funding instruments that we see on European level and across the European Union, to me, it's a best practice together with the Innovation Fund more broadly. So that, first of all, this resilience discussion is, of course, broader than just the Hydrogen Bank auction. We, for example, supported the Net Zero Industry Act with this idea to have 40% of clean tech sourced domestically, because we've seen what happened in PV, we've seen what happened in batteries, we've seen what happened in permanent magnets, and in electrolyzers, the race is still open, and we're, of course, eager to keep Europe in the race, us and the other relevant manufacturers, which is why we think this policy is reasonable. We have a gigafactory in Berlin for electrolyzers, and it's built to provide a robust European pipeline based on European technology. And coming back to the Hydrogen Bank, we also just broke ground on a project with OMV this week, and this project received positive Hydrogen Bank assessment for financing. So I think it's under the service, auction as a service, let's say, a workflow. And this is a massive project. So we will have 140 megawatt of green hydrogen electrolysis in a place called Bruck in Austria. And this will be connected via a 22-kilometer pipeline to Schwechat, to the big refinery near the Vienna airport. Yeah? So, and produce 23,000 tons of green hydrogen per year. And this is massive. It's also supported then by the Hydrogen Bank, and it is, for me, a clear sign that it's possible to have a European supply chain and to have large-scale European projects based on European technology, and also, by the way, outside of Spain. So I think very good news from us this week.
Very good. Thanks a lot, Philip. So talking about, we mentioned several times Spain, Santiago. You are the head of hydrogen at IDAE, which is the Spanish energy agency, also working under the Ministry for Ecological Transition. You've been there heading the renewable hydrogen department since 2023, and you've been many years also working on the public sector in Spain. But you've been also in Brussels, 7 years working for the ENER as a conduit expert. So you know Brussels already very well, and you know how policy is being shaped here. So Spain is taking most of the attention on the hydrogen bank. It's a front runner. Why do you think it's so? Why is Spain bringing that amount of quality? What are your perspective on that?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for this invitation to this panel, to you, Daniel, and Hydrogen Europe. I think my view is that in Spain, it's more or less the common agreement that the cost of producing renewable electricity, renewable gases, is one of the most competitive Europe-wide or worldwide, and this is recognized even as well by the government, and a very ambitious agenda for decarbonization of the different sectors has put in place. We had in the original planning for energy and climate a figure for hydrogen in electrolyzer capacity that has been tripled in the latest update of this very planning. And I think that the figures, the facts speak by themselves. It's true that in the first auction for hydrogen, a number of proposals, above 40 proposals, came just from Spain. And at that point in time, there were around 130 proposals in total for the mechanisms of auction of hydrogen. And in this second one, still the figures of proposals coming from Spain are huge, are 34, or even for the general topic, and another additional 8 ones for the maritime one. But I think that this is a strong signal that this instrument works and calls and has an effect of calling for proposals to come and submit a proposal that can be put in place in this regard. We can see also the willingness on behalf of several member states. In this case of the second auction, 3 member states compared to only 1 in the first auction have participated, which is a very positive element. Of course, I think that we can improve it. We can refurbish these rules or these terms of reference in one way or another. Specifically, I would dare to mention trying to avoid speculative offers, and that would be very, very positive. But we see that there is some room for potential of improvement, but this line of launching these auctions and complementing it with additional budget from the member states, we think it's a very interesting alternative. In Spain also, we have prepared a royal decree, which is the basic rules to cover these specific instruments, and is already foreseen that this will not be a one-off call. There will be future calls. We don't know yet if we will participate. We have to analyze internally and discuss, and based on the specific rules of this third Innovation Fund 25, the third call. But we see it with good eyes, I would say. And I think that the opportunity for Spanish companies to really align a robust project for decarbonization, different sectors, not only the traditional ones, but new ones, new greenfield projects, building on specific aspects of the hydrogen use as a second derivative, which can lead on other areas that can really make a difference in the future in the decarbonization pathways, even as we mentioned yesterday about 2030 and for instance, the sustainable fuels for aviation or any other sector.
Okay, thanks. So this is, I think, very encouraging, because you have a country which is participating in auction as a service with a positive experience, willing to continue that. You mentioned also Austria, who has not announced yet the winners, but they're already taken FID. So this shows that auction as a service works as a model. So I think this is very important. So you might want to, you will go to the third auction, but we will need more than the 3 auctions, Alexandre. But maybe now talking about, you have a lot of input, you have a lot of, you did a consultation over the summer, you get a lot of feedback, you want to strengthen the rules, you want to tighten them so that you have more maturity on the projects. Could you explain us a little bit more, how do you see the requirements for the upcoming auction?
First of all, a big thank you for the panelists for the support. I feel that there is a good vibe around the hydrogen bank, and I think it needs to be further improved. And as I said, we are open to that. But I think we are making progress. Yes, you're right that I think we want to ensure greater project maturity. And for that, we have the completion guarantee already in place. We think it works well because some projects are withdrawing before the grant agreement being signed. But we propose to strengthen that. So what we have in mind in particular is to require to the applicants to provide more information on dependent infrastructure. And here I come to what Arturo was saying. These projects can only work if there is, infrastructure. I mean, for not all of them, but many of them. So here we will ask applicants to look at the risks and the mitigation that it would take in case, there are delays or infrastructure is not in place. Same for permitting, because we know that many of these projects, face some permitting issues. So we will ask at this stage of the application to look at that. Also, stronger financial commitments. In particular, letter of intent from equity providers, again, to show that the project is a solid project. At the end of the day, I heard what you said, Daniel, that, okay, we might not be sufficiently flexible, project might need more time, but on the other hand, we want to send a very strong signal that we want this project to get realized by a certain time. This money should not sit in the bank, should be there to get, hydrogen being produced across Europe. This is why we want to keep, these 2.5 years for a financial close, 5 years for entry into operation, because we think that's the key boundaries to make sure that this project get realized. Now, I also heard Dimitris talking about geographical balance. This is something we are struggling with, in the Innovation Fund, because this is an instrument based on excellence. So we are comparing projects across Europe based on their merits. And it's not based on where they are located. So of course here you have an auction, so there it's price that matters. And it's not surprising that we see in Spain, in Portugal, in other countries where cheap renewable electricity is available, that these projects are able to bid at a lower price. Okay, so I don't think we will be able to really completely change that. What we are doing is indeed auction as a service, and that works. And I think there you need to convince your government. Go to your Greek minister and tell him there is money from the ETS revenues available, including in Greece or in Italy. Why don't you spend part of it to auction as a service? Because with that, you are sure that these are going to Greek projects that cannot bid as low. Another design element that we have introduced that hopefully will help is having this new window for electrolytic hydrogen. So there will be one window only for RFNBO and one window for both electrolytic and RFNBO. And there we can hope that this will attract also projects outside the zone I was referring to. To be seen, of course, but we think that that could be also an interesting element. Also on the geographical balance, maybe they are not located in these countries, but many countries also benefit from hydrogen projects. We hear Siemens Energy producing electrolyzers. Where are you producing these electrolyzers? In? Berlin. In Berlin, in Germany. And they will serve projects across Europe. Correct. So we are creating jobs, we are creating added value elsewhere than only in Spain. So this is something we need to keep in mind as well when we talk about how to ensure the geographical balance. Maybe I should stop here now.
Very good. Thanks. It's good to hear you what you're proposing. I know that, and I appreciate that you and your team at least have engaged with the industry, have listened over these years, and I don't know if you will stay around later, but I know that your colleague from the team, Javier, is also, so if people also want to share more ideas, I think it's great that to have you as listener. But you mentioned something about the supply chain, the electrolyzers, the production. What can the hydrogen bank do to support the supply, and probably more important these days, how can we get support for the off-takers? There is an industrial decarbonization bank. You have been working also on that before. So what would you propose to the Commission to have it more round?
Well, before we start new things like the industrial decarbonization bank, which, of course, it's important, but let's, get done the things that we have in the pipeline. I mean, RED III implementation, we've had it was mentioned. We need legally binding offtake targets. And then the other big topic is let's have workable market rules. And here this morning we sent a joint letter of all the 8 major European electrolyzer manufacturers to President von der Leyen, and we asked to finally simplify and reform this delegated act on RFNBOs, the famous thing. And I mean, I worked on that in my past job, so this issue never goes away. We currently have rules on additionality and on temporal correlation that are not workable in the opinion of the sector. I mean, the electrolyzer manufacturers have scaled up production from 1 gigawatt to 10 gigawatt, but the installed capacity is not even or about 1 gigawatt in Europe already. We had 50 hydrogen projects being cancelled in the last 18 months. 80% of that early stage RFNBO project. So something is not working, and we see that in our own order book that these additionality requirements that are kicking in, they are reducing the amount of projects, the amount of orders, and this is a massive problem. So we're asking for 3 things. First of all, with additionality to also count renewable assets that are subsidized. Second, extend exemptions on additionality until 2035 and also maintain the grandfathering clauses. And then on the time matching, we should go to weekly or monthly and not hourly. So these, in our opinion, are really prerequisites to further or to continue the momentum that we see in the hydrogen market in Europe. And unfortunately, with in Brussels, you do fantastic work here on the hydrogen bank in DG CLIMA, but then you have other colleagues in other departments, who also do their share, but are apparently not very flexible on this one specific legal issue, and it's just unfortunate. And we really hope that in this omnibus simplification proposal that's expected soon, that we can do something about this and fix these rules for everybody.
That will be definitely very important also because of the next auction, and the time at which the projects will have to be commissioned will be right around the time where the additionality grandfathering stops and where the, say, hourly correlation kicks in. So that it's, I think we have been said this many times, that I think it was foreseen in a good way, this, it's a transitional period, but we haven't developed the sector as big as we had originally foresaw. And so we're still in the development phase, and these rules are now coming in very strictly, and that's where it's creating so much difficulty. But I think that it's also been said that we need to change the rules, but we need to change them now. We cannot wait 3 years, because having this perception of that they will change in 3 years, you basically paralyze the sector. Everyone freezes, and everyone says, well, then I will wait for my investments in 3 years' time. So I think that is very important. But okay, as always, it's always very tight time for these discussions, but I would like to give the opportunity to any of you to also share last remarks, last idea that from what you have also heard. Any additional wish that you would like to get from the European Commission?
Let's bear in mind that FIDs are also being taken, and yesterday a very important FID was announced in Spain, 100 megawatts. So the sector is not frozen. Let's see that it really can speed up, but things are happening and making it real. But if I can say very briefly my wishes list, we think from Spain that green hydrogen should continue to be the priority. Its environmental performance is higher, and it contributes more to strategic autonomy of Europe. Please bear in mind infrastructure. As Jorgo likes to say, without transmission, there is no transition. And I think that if infrastructure projects imply additional risks, probably they are going to need additional support as well. and some compensation mechanism within the European Hydrogen Bank, I think, should be taken into consideration. Also, we should have some consultation process between the Hydrogen Bank, the government, and the HTNOs to have a clear idea of what's the time frame of the infrastructures, and that flexibility regarding the penalty scheme, having it more proportionate to the delay and the causes of the delay, I think really should also help. Thank you.
Thank you, Arturo.
Well, I think when it comes to the hydrogen bank, it is obvious that it is a great tool, but it needs to be, to coincide with market reality. You know, every year we have to revisit and see what is the market reality. 2 years ago in this conference, I was walking around talking about a 50 megawatt project, and I'm sorry to say that only a few ONMs were sitting down with me and discussing about the 50 megawatt project because they were thinking it was too small. Now we're talking about the 50 megawatt project, which is the largest project in operation now in Europe, you know, it's a good size of project. And if you see the projects that are coming now in the hydrogen bank as reserve list are even lower than 50 megawatt. So this is the market reality. Secondly, my wish list, I think, is more or less the same wish list that we all have. Delegated act, complete revision. I mean, it is killing the projects. I haven't seen a business model that works on hourly correlation after 2030. If somebody shows me a business model that works with hourly correlation after 2030, I will invest in this project, okay? I'm saying it now. Secondly, we need RED 3 implementation immediately. This is a major factor for creating demand in all member states. Thank you very much.
Want to come? Any other final comment, Santiago?
Yeah. I would like just to go very quickly through two recommendations based on the last global hydrogen review in 2025 by the IEA that proposes 5 recommendations on policy issues, but in particular I would like to stand out 2 of them. The first is maintain support schemes for low emissions clean hydrogen production with a focus on shovel-ready projects that target existing applications. Are those projects that are mature enough that are ready to go ahead with a final investment decision? And on the other hand, the second one is accelerate demand creation of low emissions hydrogen and hydrogen-based fuels through regulation and support schemes. But this recommendation is accompanied by another element that governments and industry can cooperate to create lead markets. And these lead markets for sustainable end-use products. I think that also creates the context, the environment, the elements that are necessary to identify specifically for mature projects or critical projects which financing support they need specifically and distillate a specific premium that will help them to erect and construct and build the project in the end.
Okay, thanks a lot. So I think just final word.
Very briefly, because I think we all want to go for lunch. So
not yet, not yet.
Not yet? Okay, no more work. Oh my God. Hydrogen Europe makes you work all the time, huh? Amazing.
Yes.
No, just a few words to say a big thank you for all the comments, recommendations. Happy to work with you to see what we can do. Off-takers, yes, the hydrogen bank alone cannot do it. So we need the full policy spectrum in place. We will do also the industrial decarbonization bank that should also help de-risk the off-taker side. And I think a very important feature of the hydrogen bank has been its flexibility. We've been able to adapt. Last year we were told, okay, do something about China and electrolyzers. We did it. Now we have NZIA rules. We're implementing them. I mean, all of that is a way to show agility as well. There are not many tools like that. Huh? So I think we are quite lucky, and let's preserve what works well. But thanks for your support. Great.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to you and your team. Now, before we close, I would like, because we're talking about European funding mechanism, the EU-wide funding mechanism, but we are not in isolation in the world. We have also other regions. We have China, we have India. And India has been running very successful auctions for ammonia, for green ammonia. And we have now the pleasure, and I will ask you to stay for a couple of minutes more. Sure. I would like to invite Sanjay Sharma to the stage, who is the director for Solar Energy Corporation of India Limited, who has been running the very successful auctions, and to explain us what the experience from India. Please join me with applause.
So, thank you, Mr. Daniel, and dignitaries on the dais, colleagues and friends. It's my pleasure to be here and invited on this European Hydrogen Week and to deliver the closing remarks on this high-level policy session. And that means chaired by so many eminent personalities in their own field. Before I start my journey, how we started, the main thing we have compared with the European Union, and yesterday also in each and every session, there was a talk about the RFNBO compliance. In this panel also, the three things came out. One is additionality. So, because India has brought down the prices too much, and there are apprehensions in the minds of the people that whether the projects are deliverable and whether these are RFNBO compliant or not. So I'll touch upon very quickly. One is additionality. Though it was not specifically written in our tender that additionality is to be required, but it is implied. How it is implied? We have 251 gigawatt plus capacity of non-fossil installed in India right now in operation. Out of that, 177 is solar and wind, 177 gigawatt. And we don't see, mostly it is bilaterally tied up, only 0.5 gigawatt to 1 gigawatt is only available, which is not tied up bilaterally or maybe having short-term contracts. So implied is that additionality, they have to put the project for their own use because they will not get renewable energy from the market, from anywhere to run their electrolyzers. So it is RFNBO complied, one. Secondly, it has also came out from the panel that timely correlation cannot be met. To run the electrolyzer 24/7, to make it viable, RE has to be supplied 24/7. But if you put a condition that after 1 hour, your storage should be, your electron should be converted into the molecule, which is not feasible. I'll tell you why. Why 1 hour only? Why not 24 hours? Why not 1 month? See, in any storage system, say battery, for example, if up to 7 o'clock when the sun is shining, you are storing some energy into the battery, and as per your condition, after 2030, it should be converted into the molecule after within 8 o'clock, means after 1 hour. So my question is very simple. Battery is not generating any energy, any kind of energy. Renewable energy is charging a battery, and it is green till 8 o'clock. What about 8:01 p.m.? It becomes black or gray? No, it is always green. Whenever you are taking it out, it is green only. So 1 hour, we have to look into that. What is the logic? Or you may say that it is temporarily, it cannot be charged, or you cannot store the renewable energy. It should be immediately used and get it converted into the molecule. So I don't know what is the logic, but there must be some logic. I don't know. But third thing, geographical correlation. We have written and we have discussed many times in the last European Hydrogen Week that India is one nation, one grid, one frequency. The whole country is running and connected. There is no bidding zone kind of a thing. So, and just to give you the brief, our grid is having 220 kV and above transmission line of 0.47 million circuit kilometers. And the transformation capacity is 1.3 megavolt ampere. This is the transformation capacity. And the transmission capacity availability is 99.84%. And the congestion in the total grid in the last year, 23-24, it came out only 0.02%. So 99.98% time, our grid is available, there is no congestion. So it can be declared as a single bidding zone, and with that, RFNBO compliant kind of as a slight modification is required. India can meet all the demand from for European Union, and at the cheapest rate. Whatever we have discovered, the cheapest we have discovered at 478 euro per metric ton. And that includes transportation up to the site of the fertilizer plant. So another, if you see the production cost only, it is less than 450 or so. And what we have known through the media that Fertiglobe, who is going to set up in its project in Egypt, the production cost is 811. So apparently, yes, India can deliver with skill, speed, and scale. So the basic point is, in India, land is cheaply available. Secondly, the skilled manpower is also very cheaply available. And third is, the renewable energy cost is very, very cheap, less than 2.5 euro or so. Not 2.5, 2.5 cents per unit. So I think European Union should think that India is the natural partner. So we should come out with the removing all the hurdles which are creating problem, so that European Union can also get the benefit of cheap hydrogen or say energy transition in a very cheaper way, instead of wasting too much money of the taxpayers' coffer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, with this, I will like to conclude, but it's a very important message also coming from India. I think there is many rooms for improvement on bringing down the cost of hydrogen, and I think we still need to learn more on the successes of the Indian auction. But I would like to thank you very much for your time, for your expertise, for your input, and I wish you all a great day. Now we have a lunch break, and we'll be back in around 1 hour. Thanks a lot.